Herd Hierarchy, week 5, best part of the week. We get to go over my power rankings real quick. Let's take a look at where they were last week. So this is how it was before the games were played. As you can see, Miami was at the top. Now the big question is, how far will Miami drop? How high will Buffalo raise? A lot happening in the top part. This is the new power rankings. San Francisco is the top team. Miami 2, Buffalo 3, Philly 4, KC 5, Detroit 6, Dallas 7, Seattle 8, Baltimore 9, Cleveland 10. Now you may say, whoa. How in the world is Buffalo not ahead of Miami? This is an important lesson to learn, okay? The last thing you want to do is these knee-jerk reactions where Buffalo beats Miami. All of a sudden, you jump Buffalo up from 5 all the way up to 2, and you drop Miami from the best team to 3, 4, or 5. Okay, here's my reasoning. Buffalo still lost to the Jets. That is a way worse loss than Miami losing in Buffalo. Now we will see what happens moving forward. But think about my rankings. If I shoot Buffalo up from 5 to 2, and then Buffalo goes and loses to Jacksonville, and then what am I going to do? Drop them to 7 or 8? So you got to you really don't want to move teams that much off of 1 week. Anything can happen. So it would have been ridiculous for us to have Buffalo at 1. They lose to the Jets, and then we drop them completely out of the power rankings because the Jets aren't in the top 10. So overreactions don't get you very far. So that's why I have Miami still ahead of the Bills. If you look at the games that have been played, Miami lost at Buffalo. Buffalo lost to the Jets. So, weighing the performances of Miami, aside from the loss, weighing Buffalo's performances, I think I still have Miami ahead of them. But that could change. Right now, the one constant, the one for sure, is that San Francisco is the best team in the NFL. That is the one, can't mess around. That is a fact. Now, a couple other notes is that I think Detroit and Seattle are probably the 2 teams that I like the most right now. Like, if the playoffs started right now, I might have a ticket on Detroit and Seattle because of the value. I think they're really good. I think they're really, really good. I thought Seattle was dominant against the Giants, and I just like their personnel. Same with Detroit. I like their personnel. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, and the Eagles are the Eagles, but right now I'm more impressed with the Lions and the Seahawks than I am with the Eagles and the Chiefs. Now, obviously, you have to give a tip of the cap to the pedigree of the Chiefs and the pedigree of the Eagles and what they've done in the past, but like I said, if the season ended right now and the way everyone's playing, I think Detroit and Seattle are playing better football than Kansas City and Philadelphia. Cleveland is one note where I did drop them, but I kept them in the top 10 because they did lose with DTR. Deshaun Watson was out. So let's go ahead and watch Colin Cowherd's Herd Hierarchy. Controversial shirt. I say this every time I see someone wearing this. I mean, a light blue shirt like that, I would be sweating buckets through the shirt. My pits would be moist.
Hierarchy, fire away.
Herd Hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to Colin. Number 10.
I know you're going to laugh, but I trust the coach and the quarterback.
I thought about this. I like the Rams. I've bet on the Rams a lot this year. I think, look, the Rams have been good. Now, bit of a kind of a deceiving score. They were up, whatever it was, 26-0. All of a sudden, they have to win in overtime. But Matt Stafford's playing pretty good. Cooper Kupp is coming back. They seem to have found some weapons with Puka Nacua and Kyren Williams, and they're kind of finding some stuff. They kind of have something working. We know how good McVay is. Stafford's a little banged up right now. If I had to do an honorable mention, the Rams probably would have been my 11th team. So I don't have a problem with this. I think they're pretty good.
LA Rams. Stafford has 300-plus passing yards in 3 of the 4 first games, tied for the most in the league. He's always been a great come-from-behind quarterback, and we have to acknowledge that Puka Nacua is the rookie of the year if C.J. Stroud doesn't win it. This kid's unguardable. It's incredible.
Puka Nacua right now is on pace to shatter the single season receiving record. Like his numbers are crazy. Now with Cooper Kupp coming back, I have a sneaky feeling that won't continue. But if it does, yeah, I agree with Colin. He does need to be Rookie of the Year.
And I said in the offseason, they're old in spots, but offensively, they got dudes. They've remade the offensive line, moved guys around. The Rams have the coach and the quarterback. Aaron Donald remains dominant. He's the second highest graded defensive lineman on PFF. Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp comes back. They've done all this without Cooper Kupp. I have him at 10.
Number 9.
Detroit Lions. Listen, last 4.
See, okay, there were 10 last week, so we moved them up 1. They were incredible against the Packers. And I know, the jury's still out on how good Green Bay is, but when you dominate a divisional game like that on the road, that's a special performance. I made a video about the Lions this week. I think the Lions are a good team. I think that, we kind of went through this thing where, are the Lions good? Are they for real? Are they just a good story? I think it's time to put that to bed. I think they are a good team. I think they have good personnel. They are winning. The most important thing a team can do when you're considered a good team is win the games you're supposed to. That's what seems to trip teams up. The good teams, the Chiefs, the Eagles, whoever, they end up winning 12, 13 games a year because they beat the teams they're supposed to beat. The teams who kind of struggle, the Jaguars last year, you drop a lot of games. You drop a lot of games you shouldn't lose. You shouldn't drop them. Detroit is turning into the team that wins the games they should. They're turning into that team where you can kind of count on them. Jared Goff, I'll tell you this too. This is probably a video for a different day. Jared Goff was laughed at and ridiculed and considered a bust. Depending on how his career goes with the Lions, Jared Goff could be looked at as one of the most successful first overall quarterbacks we've had in a long time. He's went to a Super Bowl, was really good with the Rams. You can say it was McVay or whatever, but now he's really good with the Lions. So maybe Jared Goff was just really good. I like the Lions a lot.
14 games, they've won 11. We got to acknowledge they're pretty good. Their defense, which we have criticized, it's now number 4. They have a real pass rush. 12 sacks last 2 games. I've always thought Jared Goff against the spread is money. He's underrated. They have drafted and developed well. They have been patient. I like what I see. Detroit at number 9.
Number 8.
The Seahawks. They don't give the ball.
Okay, I have Seattle. Where do I have them? Let me get rid of the old one. I have them at 8. Okay, so great job for Colin. And again, Fox Sports, give me a call. I'm doing this, on my own. Give me a call, give me a camera, give me a microphone. Easy peasy. The Seahawks are good. Again, they're very similar to the Lions. Great personnel. They've got important players where you need them. They have playmakers. They have defensive players. They have a quarterback who seemingly has turned the corner in his career. They're good. And they got a good coach. Pete Carroll, he's like the reverse Belichick Brady, where maybe it was Carroll and not Russell Wilson. So I like what Seattle has going on. They're going to have to go as far as Geno will take them. And if Geno plays good, Seattle is a dangerous team. Lockett and Metcalf is a very difficult duo to deal with. They've got good running backs. Bobby Wagner's got the green dot on defense. Jamal Adams, he got hurt in the game, but Jamal Adams is a playmaker. This team, they're one of those teams too, like the Rams. When you're talking about the Rams, it's like a bunch of guys who you're not totally sold on. I'm totally sold on these guys that Seattle's rolling out there. They're good. Again, they're dominant when in the games they're supposed to be dominant in, a la Monday night. So, yeah, I like Seattle a lot.
Ball up, 1 giveaway all season. They lead the NFL in sack differential. 16 sacks. So they're getting after the quarterback. They don't give the ball up. They've empowered their run game. They drafted what appears to be a star corner.
Yeah, Witherspoon.
Charbonnet, Charles Cross, Kenneth Walker, Witherspoon, Woolen. They've hit back-to-back.
Yeah, that's impressive. The players he just rattled off in those couple of drafts, they're doing really well drafting. And this might just be a team that does that. You looked at when the Legion of Boom was created. They nailed Russell Wilson, whatever you want to say about all those players and putting them where they had to be to succeed. The Seahawks are a good franchise, and they've proven they're a winner. They're not down. I said this last week, but the Seahawks, they're not just like holding on to what once was. They're creating this whole new team with this whole new culture, this whole new style, and it's working. I think they're great.
Draft home runs. They've got a Hall of Fame level coach. They're playing well. Take week 1 out for the Rams. Beat Detroit in Detroit. I don't know. They're winning road games. Traveling across the country. I have Seattle at 8.
Number 7.
Lamar Jackson's good.
Yep, sure is. So I've got the Ravens. I've got the Ravens at 9. Okay, so I think the Ravens are really good too. I mean, y'all know I like the Ravens. I've said it before that if I had to bet on a team in the AFC to win the Super Bowl, I would bet on the Ravens. I bet on the Ravens to win the division before the season. That looks pretty good with Joe Burrow's injury and whatnot. They are what we thought they were, and they're only going to get better. The more Lamar shakes off kind of the rust from this offseason, the same things tends to plague the Ravens nevermore, pun intended, is injuries. Odell Beckham seemingly is on the injury report every week. They constantly lose running backs, but the Ravens are a team that no one wants to play. I can only do so much with a 28-3 win because of DTR and because Deshaun Watson didn't play, but still, you dominate a divisional opponent on the road. Huge boom, huge benefit for the rest of the season. So yeah, I love the Ravens.
Can we stop? Second in completion percentage in the league, and you view him as a running quarterback. They lead the NFL in red zone touchdowns. A lot of teams struggle in the red zone, even good teams. Not Baltimore because of Lamar. This kid overcomes more than anybody. Sometimes his own injuries, sometimes receiver injuries, O-line injuries. Now they faced a backup quarterback. That helps. But I love their culture. I love Lamar. Baltimore at 7.
Number 6.
The Cowboys. All their wins are by 20.
Yeah, the Cowboys. So I have them at 7. The Cowboys are one of those teams where they're like the opposite of what I'm talking about. Like the teams that they go and they dominate and they do what they're supposed to do. The Cowboys always seem to find a way to slip up in the playoffs. And they always seem to find a way to mess up a good season. The Cowboys do tend to be bullies. They tend to beat bad teams convincingly. Like the Patriots, 38-3. They are not afraid to steamroll the bad teams. But then they will lose if given kind of some pushback. I'm still not totally sure how far I think a team with Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy can go. Dallas obviously is good in places, mostly defensively, but are they as good defensively as we once thought they were? Or do they have as good a defense as the Browns? I don't know about that. Is their defense as good as the Titans? I'm not sure. Is their defense as good as the Saints? I don't know. It's in that conversation, though. So unless Dallas shows me they have a flat out the best defense in the NFL, I will always have a hesitation with Dallas unless Mike McCarthy or Dak really blows me away.
Plus points. They lead the NFL in turnover differential. They speed the game up. Now, that may not matter for the Niners, but that's what they do. Opposing quarterbacks, passer rating against.
Good example. They're about to play the Niners. We'll see. That's Sunday Night Football. We'll see what happens. If Dallas beats San Francisco on Sunday night, okay, we can have a conversation about maybe this Dallas team is different. But if they get rolled, then they're just the same old Dallas.
The Cowboys this year, 55. That's it. Lead the NFL in third down percentage. Opposing quarterbacks have struggled with or without Trayvon Diggs. Their defensive front has playmakers. Cowboys at 6.
Number 5.
Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts has won.
Philly's interesting because they have not played well. Devil's advocate, whenever you don't play well, but you're 4-0, to me, that's almost like it's almost a bonus. Because, yeah, I think Jalen Hurts has been whatever. I think Philly's been kind of whatever. I think they're still trying to find their way. Yet, they're 4-0. So, there's no style points in the NFL, like winning ugly or whatever. At some point, it doesn't matter. At some point, you're just winning. You can say, I can sit here and say the Eagles win ugly. I can sit here and say the Eagles haven't looked the same. I can sit here and say the Eagles aren't the same team they were last year. I could say the Eagles are seem to be struggling. Yeah, well, they're 4-0. So if this is them struggling, then they're going to heat up. They're going to heat up. They're going to get better. I have them at 4, I believe. I have the Chiefs under them. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the Eagles will progress. I think they will get better. So they definitely deserve to be in the top 5, but they are not as dominant right now as they were at any point last year. Is that the loss of Gannon and Steichen? Perhaps.
Won 21 of his last 22 games. I don't even think they're playing that well. They have the best O-line, D-line combination in the league. 4-0 for the second straight year. They were 8-0.
That's something Colin says a lot. I'm not totally sure it's true. The whole D-line, O-line thing, that was definitely true last year. Detroit may have something to say about that. You know, I don't know if Philly is that again. I think that's just a trope that's carried over. I'd have to look into the deep DVOA analytics.
No, to start last year. And listen, one of the things about Jalen Hurts that I like, there's no dink and dunk here. They have 7 completions and 4 touchdown passes of 25-plus yards. If you start crowding the box with them, they will burn you over the top. So,
well, that's kind of their offense, though. Like they're not a dink and dunk offense. We're going to run it. We dare you to stop us. We dare you to stop us. The second you try and stop them from running, they take their chance and throw it deep. So, I mean, that's the same thing that they did last year. They were a big play offense last year. They're a big play offense this year. So, no surprise there.
So they're not playing well, and they're 4-0. How many teams in football could say that?
Number 4.
Miami. Number 1.
Woo, big drop. Okay, so this is what we talked about. I think this is too far of a drop. I think this is way too far of a drop. It's just 4 quarters of football. I don't think can change a team that much. I don't think you can learn. Like it blows my mind. Like flip it. Okay, flip it. If Miami and Buffalo played in week 1 and Buffalo won, and then you go through the rest of the season, Miami wins all their games after that, and Buffalo wins all their games after that, but then last week, let's say they would have lost to the Jets. So pretend the Jets-Zach Wilson game happens last week. You think Colin would have the Bills wherever he's going to have them, and you think he would have the Dolphins at 4? No. Because people, when you do that, all you're doing is basically saying what happened last week. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's way too reactionary. It's way too knee-jerky. You have to still somehow factor in what you've previously seen. Think about, like last week, I was waxing poetic about how unbelievable Miami is, how creative of a genius Mike McDaniel is, how much they're changing the offense in the NFL. Do I just all of a sudden now not believe any of that stuff because of the performance in Buffalo? No. I still believe all that stuff. I'm not going to change my opinion just off of those 4 quarters and just off of that game. So I feel like this is that. I feel like this is way too much of a drop. Going from 1 to 4 because of that game, it's disappointing to see.
One scoring offense, better for a track meet than an alley fight. Their weakness is this isn't a very good defense, and it's not a very good offensive line. What it is a very, very accurate quarterback, the fastest team in the league at wide receiver, a brilliant head coach, maybe ahead of the league in their motion offense, but in the end, this is a team built for high-scoring affairs. New England and Buffalo's defense gave them problems. Miami at 4.
But again, like both those games are on the road, they're divisional, Well, let me re-say the thing about flipping the schedule, because I think that's important, and I think that's something that everyone can utilize and learn from, and how to kind of power rank and kind of think about teams. Whatever the results are, okay, so Miami, you've got the loss in Buffalo, you've got the win against the Broncos, you've got the New England game, you've got whatever else they have. Your opinion of the Dolphins should be the same no matter how you order those games. So you could put the Patriots game last. You can put the 70-point game as week 1. However you order them, you should have the same opinion of that team as you do right now. It shouldn't be solely based on the last game. And hopefully everyone, let me know in the comments below if that makes sense. Because if you do that, you get in a situation where you kind of have to backpedal, and you never want to backpedal on what you believe in a team. you want to say what you believe in a team. You want to have reasons for it. You want to have evidence for it, and then continue with it. I think Justin Fields. I always for some reason gravitate to Justin Fields and the Bears. I'll switch it. I think Daniel Jones is terrible. I think Daniel Jones is a bad quarterback. If Daniel Jones next week went 28 for 29 with 350 yards and 5 touchdowns, no picks, I'm not going to immediately say, man, Daniel Jones is pretty sweet, because I believe he's awful. I'm watching you do good, but now do good in a sustained, pattern. Be consistent. Zach Wilson, same thing. Zach Wilson has been awful. He played good for 3 quarters against the Chiefs. Does that mean all of a sudden he's good? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean he's good. It means he played 3 good quarters against the Chiefs. Now do it again. Do it next week. All right. If Miami scores 70 points this week, if they just dominate, who they're playing? Carolina, I think. If they win 70-0, what's Colin going to do? Throw them back up to number 1? And then if they lose the next game, he's going to drop them back down to 5? Too much of a swing.
Number 3.
So Kansas City could use their receivers, but has a significantly better defense than Miami and a much better offensive line. Patrick Mahomes, least sack quarterback in the NFL.
I think the Chiefs stuff, and I kind of went back and forth on my ranking. The Chiefs stuff is a tremendous amount of respect to the Kansas City Chiefs for what they've done in the last couple of years. I think they do deserve that. I think you can't count out Andy Reid. You can't count out Patrick Mahomes. But nothing about this year has impressed me with Kansas City. Mahomes is a magician. Mahomes is great. But I haven't seen anything from them this year that would make me confident that this team is anywhere near the Super Bowl level team or even the AFC champions. Like I could probably... Power rankings are a little different because you start at a certain point and then you kind of work your way from there. But right now, if the season was over, I might have 4 AFC teams ahead of them in my mind. Like of who I thought, if we were entering the playoffs, who would win. Maybe even more than that. Maybe even 5. Because like the Buffaloes, the Miamis, the Baltimores, I'd have to think about it. But they're kind of living off of past success, and at some point they're going to have to prove that this wide receiver thing isn't going to be an issue. They're going to have to prove that they can be the same Chiefs offense. I'm holding out hope that they make a move. I'm holding out hope that they go and get a wide receiver, and if they do that, I think just as fast as we're saying they're disappointing, they can shoot up to number 1. So their front office has to be working.
This season only been hit twice. Now some of that's he runs around. I love their defense. They've held opponents to 21 or fewer points in all 4 games. Their issue, and I think it's a real issue, they may have to address at the trade deadline. Outside of Kelsey, they just don't get enough separation.
No, they get 0.
Even with Mahomes.
Be a funny water cooler discussion. Go ask your friends or your coworkers. Ask them who the better defense is between Dallas and Kansas City. Because they're not expecting to hear Kansas City. They're not going to know what's going on. Ask them who's the better defense, Dallas, Kansas City, or the Titans. They will be lost.
Look at what they're scoring. They need a big play receiver. I'm not talking Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. It is an issue, and I'm not sure it's solvable with their wide receiving personnel.
Not their personnel.
I know everybody falls in love with Buffalo when they start rolling down teams, but they have done something that I like. They are far less dependent on the big play. They're running the ball better. Josh Allen's running less. Josh Allen's completion percentage is 75%.
Right now, Josh Allen's playing insane. He's playing at an MVP level. I've seen some stuff. Mina Kimes was tweeting about that they are starting to move him under center and has a play action from under center, and that's been really good. Look, it's always been the same thing with the Bills. If Josh Allen plays at an MVP level, that team is hard to beat. Because he is that good. He's that dynamic. He's the same as kind of like a Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson is playing at an MVP level, Baltimore is going to be sweet. That's just how they are built. That's their scheme. That's their system. If Josh Allen's turning the ball over, they're going to have trouble. But if he's protecting the ball, if he's dynamic, if he's everywhere, if he's accurate, then yeah, they can light teams up. They're good. we had question marks about him. We had question marks about Stephon Diggs and the holdout and the culture and McDermott and, you know, can Josh Allen survive in a post-Dayball world? Is that all solved? No, it's not all solved, but we're inching closer to it being solved. We talked about last week, Miami was kind of the new darling of the AFC East. Buffalo reminded people that they're still here. And Buffalo's a good example too of what I'm talking about with the knee-jerk reaction. Last year, every person in the world had Buffalo as the #1 power-rated team in the NFL. They lose to the Jets. All of a sudden, people have forgotten, they're writing them off. They've completely written them off. Then they see a performance like this, boom. Now they're back in everyone's top 2 list. Now they're back to being the favorites. Now they're back to being Josh Allen's favorite to win the MVP. Buffalo took a huge step forward. They have a very, very, very difficult spot in the next game. They come off of the best win of the season, their best performance of the season, in the biggest game of the season, beat Miami. Then they have to go get on a flight, fly international, and go to London to play a waiting Jaguars team who's been in London for 2 weeks. This is a hellacious spot for the Buffalo Bills. If Buffalo takes care of business in a convincing fashion against Jacksonville, I will be very, very, very impressed because of how bad the spot is.
So what they always had is the ability to be Superman and fly above the clouds. But they didn't do the little things right. They were bad at details, where Cincinnati and Kansas City were great at those. Now they can run the ball without Josh. Now their completion percentage is 75%. They have buttoned up a lot of the issues we've had with them. Now maybe, October, November comes around, but they're not just home run Buffalo. They've gotten better at small ball and little things, and it's noticeable.
Number 1.
I mean, what do you want me to say with San Francisco?
I mean, this is a
everybody
no-brainer.
loves the Cowboys, and they're a favorite. All right, over a field goal, highest graded defense, Hall of Famers ever.
This team is nuts. I mean, right now the team is bananas. Brock Purdy has not lost a game. It is what it is. I don't know. I mean, I've sat here in the offseason and I said, I don't know if I trust Brock Purdy. I might be one of those guys who, when Brady came in and took up for Bledsoe, one of the guys who was saying, I don't know if I trust this Tom Brady kid. Can he do it for an extended period of time? Because Brock Purdy, in a game he has played for more than 3 quarters, he has yet to lose. This team is nuts. The team is sweet. They're good everywhere. Christian McCaffrey's your MVP right now. Until San Francisco shows some serious regression, they are miles ahead of the rest of the NFL. They are the constant. Last week we said that the top 3 teams were, there was a huge gap between the top 3 and the rest of the NFL. There is a huge gap between San Francisco and the rest of the NFL. They are as steady is. They are dominant. They can beat you in so many different ways. And we're getting a healthy MVP level Christian McCaffrey. They're super fun to watch. They have the best coach in the NFL. Unreal.
Everywhere. 14 straight regular season wins. Purdy doesn't make any mistakes. Christian McCaffrey should be in the running for MVP. I think San Francisco, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Miami kind of feel different. Throw in Philadelphia. Feel a little different than everybody else in the league. I do think it's impressive that Philadelphia hasn't played well and is 4-0. Hi, everybody.
I think right now, if San Francisco played Philadelphia, they would absolutely steamroll Philadelphia. I mean, again, Dallas is power rated pretty high, and San Francisco is a 3.5-point favorite. So, I mean, it tells you their power ranking. So, overall, me and Colin had a few slight changes, relatively similar per usual. The Miami thing, kind of shocked he dropped him that far. But, he can't get them all right. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below your top 10. Where was I wrong? Where was I right? How did you feel about the conversation about Miami and Buffalo and looking at a schedule and kind of jumbling it up to make sure that your review of a team is stable? Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.